Alrighty. Looks like we're about to get started, waiting for the numbers to go up a little bit. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you for joining today. We, of course, have some very great presenters here today. My name is Justin Stanley, and I am a customer success manager here at Blackbaud. I want to let you all know today we will be exploring the possibilities, of course, and learning new skills that you can discover in your community, but mainly we're going to discuss how to upgrade your payments checkout experience with the Sky Payments API. But I want to go over some quick webinar housekeeping rules, of course, or just some tips and tricks. If you are running into any issues with your audio, please, 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 I cannot emphasize this enough. Please refresh your browser. You may have to log out, log back in. That also helps. This recording will also be available afterwards. So do not feel as if you miss anything because we are going through it a little fast, you will be provided with the recording after this call. You also can download the slides in your Docs tab that is located on the right side of your screen, right beside messages or your chat. So please be mindful of that if you would like to get the PowerPoint. And of course, if you have any Q&A or questions that you would like answered, please put it in the Q&A tab located on the left side or on the far right side beside your Docs tab on the right side. We want to make sure this is a free-flowing conversation that goes on as we do continue. We understand that a lot of people are taking times out of their busy schedules. So we'd love to hear a little bit about the organization that you are representing. So if you would like, no one is obligated to, just to put your organization's name and where you're located at in the chat. And that way we would love to get everyone engaged in the juices flowing. But with that being said, at this time, I will be passing it over to my colleague, Mina, who will introduce herself, as well as our other presenter who is on the way and who will be following up right after Mina. So I pass it off to you, Mina.
Thank you very much, Justin. Yep, we're both here. And hey, everybody, I'm Mina. I'm a principal product manager on our payments team here at Blackbaud. And I'm joined here today by one of our lead architects, Mitchell Thomas. And for the next 30 minutes or so, our main focus is going to be sharing a new version of our checkout experience that has some very cool new enhancements. And Mitchell's going to cover the core part of our presentation today with a demo and a peek under the hood to see how it all works and show you some of that code. I'm going to kick it off first with some just general context on our payments API in case you're new. We are running this live also. I want you to know that we've got a couple team members behind the scenes. So if you want to post any questions while we're going through the content, feel free to do that and we can get back to you. I will make a quick request in addition to what Justin just mentioned. If you don't mind sharing with us whether or not you already are users of the Payments API, how you're using it, and also whether or not you're using Checkout today, that will be really helpful for us to see who's online with us today, take your questions, maybe tailor the session a little bit and get some conversation going. So post that in the chat. All right, so I'm going to just kick off just 2 or 3 minutes here with some background. So Blackbaud Integrated Payments is our overall payment services offering. It's inclusive of our merchant services. You might hear us refer to that as BBMS. And this is our payments platform that powers all of our enterprise applications at Blackbaud for a range of different types of use cases like donation forms and tuition payments, etc. Over many of our customers, over dozens of different Blackbaud applications for well over a decade now. And we focus on these main outcomes for our customers when it comes to payment processing. And that's to raise more, to save more, and to sleep better with a secure and highly performant processing platform. And in each of these categories, we are employing different strategies, different features and capabilities that help us do things like optimize authorization rates, increase conversion of one-time and recurring payments. We help you save fees by cover processing costs. And we also do a lot of work behind the scenes to help make sure that the compliance and all of the administration that comes with payment processing is as streamlined as possible. I will say that when we talk about our Blackbaud integrated payments platform as a whole, it's really important to know that all of these features and all of these benefits that you get are just as important for any custom or third-party integration as it is for our own Blackbaud applications that use our payments platform. So all of these optimizations, these new ongoing feature developments and capabilities are benefits that you get regardless of whether you process payments from within Blackbaud application or from a custom application. We also operate in 6 currencies and across the globe. And today we actually have live API integrations that have been running for several years now in all of these regions across the globe. So let's talk about the payments API specifically. And the main reason that customers come to us wanting to process payments through the API is essentially to help them consolidate the number of payment vendors that they have to manage. If you're a customer, you know very well that every single new piece of software that comes with a new payment processor is going to require a new contractual process, negotiation on rates, figuring out different payout schedules, what are the new reports that you're going to get for all of your payments and all your payouts, and what are the formats that those are in, and you have to give those to the accounting team. They have to learn a whole new process, and there's a lot of overhead that isn't always immediately evident when you are looking at expanding the way that you raise funds. So just being able to use your existing merchant account is a real huge benefit for customers, and saves a ton of time and investment overall. And I think it's a real testament to why the API, and we've seen a huge number of new applications and a ton of growth in our customers benefiting from building their own integrations or working with a partner or working with a software vendor to build an integration because of those time savings. You can also see on the slide here on the right-hand side some of the more typical use cases that we see in things like custom websites or face-to-face fundraising, telephone fundraising. We've seen auctions. We've seen different use cases in education, like lunch accounts and things like that. So there really is a wide range of different use cases that are possible with the Payments API. So this slide is also looking at things from a high level for the API. We do have support for online payments, in-person payments, and what I call merchant originated. And today we're going to focus on online payments with the new checkout experience. But I did want to make you aware that we do have the ability to support card-present payments with a variety of different devices. So we have the payment terminal device, for example, that you can use at a point of sale or for taking ticket sales at an event. And then we also support these merchant-originated transactions, which essentially looks like posting recurring payments, for example, through the API. So those are all possible. If you have questions on any of those other use cases, feel free to just let us know. All right, so let's get to the main topic for today. And this is our new checkout experience. And if you're a customer of online giving, or if you use Luminate, then you may recognize these forms. We're essentially bringing the same new checkout that we've been developing over the last few years and is now live in our enterprise applications to our Payments API to allow it to be used in any custom application. And so this means that you're going to benefit from all of the optimizations, all of the best practices that we've already baked in to make this a really highly performant user experience. There are a lot of new features with this version that we'll go through today. Most notably, as you can see here, there are 2 different form factors, both a modal and an embedded or inline version. That gives you more control over how you want to design your user experience in your application. You can also see that we've got additional payment methods like Google Pay. We also support recurring digital wallets with this version as well. And so I think without any further delay, I'm going to hand it over to Mitchell so you can see this new checkout in action. Again, post any questions you have in the chat. I'm going to hop backstage and hand it over to Mitchell.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mina. Okay. So, let's see. Let's get this. Get my screen shared here, and we'll get going. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to go through this in layers to just kind of show run a quick transaction through, and then kind of dig into some of the details. What we have here is just an internal kind of a test harness that allows us to test all the different permutations with easy access to do it. But all of these things are just translating to what you would expect to see on sort of the integration side. So I'll just go ahead and just show from a very simple standpoint the modal workflow. We'll go ahead and just launch into here. And so just for context, like behind here, this is a sample form that we put together just to represent kind of what the really what your side brings. And we can use that as a high fidelity way to test what the integration would look like. So if I open up the payment modal here, presented first off with all of the available payment options, and this flow, you can either choose to do just normal typed in credit card, or you're presented with your wallet options. So I like to demo the wallet options just because from this flow, it is actually just a single screen. And go through here with PayPal, and we're processed and we're done. So that was, there's obviously a lot that's going on under the hood, but from a UI workflow standpoint, you get a pretty streamlined experience. So I'll do the same thing just really quickly with a manually typed in credit card. And so put my test credit card in here, and there you go. So pretty smooth. What we see here, just to kind of speak a little bit to the integration side of things, is the event that you get, which is similar if you're used to the BB checkout integration. It's an equivalent like checkout complete event. So you'll get your transaction ID and different details that about like exactly what happened in that flow. And yeah, so that's that is the modal workflow. It's pretty straightforward. I'll go ahead and demo the inline flow and speak to a little bit of kind of what's going on here. So the inline workflow provides two elements that you embed in your page. So there is the complete checkout button. So this is where you would put just in place of your regular submit button. And it actually wraps up your submit button so that you can still control the look and feel 100% there. But the reason that it is necessary is because for this other element where you get to just a different presentation of the available payment options, if you do select a wallet, we control the display of the wallet button. And so if I, again, do PayPal, you can see that the normal submit button got replaced with the vendor button so that we can kind of present that and just keep everything kind of inside our experience. So again, I'll just run through a quick a quick transaction here for a wallet, and so that the form submitted essentially after the transaction was complete, and go through here and handle just a normal credit card. Now, something I'll dig into a little bit more here in a minute, but because this is inline, there are a few different hooks that are necessary in order to make it a really streamlined experience. So you'll see some like loading experience and things like that that we don't control 100% on the Blackbaud side, but we give the right information so that you're able to integrate those. So I'm gonna go ahead and process this, and so that transaction's now been authorized. So we basically just did four $25 transactions, a wallet plus a normal credit card. I'll share a couple other things. So some little bit of different scenarios on things. So right now you see everything. This right now is a one-time gift, but if I go back to my host form here and I choose a recurring gift and then I click donate, we control which payment methods are eligible for recurring. And so as like if we're able to make something available that was previously unavailable for recurring, that just gets automatically kind of promoted into this view. But the donor is presented with what's eligible. So you notice that PayPal and Venmo are not on there because we don't support that for recurring yet. But when that is available, they'll just show up automatically if you're configured for PayPal. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and show direct debit here. So especially for some of our international direct debit scenarios, there are a few more requirements, but we handle the display of mandates if those are required. So because this is recurring ACH, there's a mandate that we need to display to the donor, and so we handle that just in the flow, and all that gets taken care of. Yep, cool. So yeah, I see there's a question around recurring wallets. So that's something that in VB Checkout isn't supported, but it's just kind of supported out of the box for this new checkout experience. Okay, so for the next kind of layer that we're talking about, I'm gonna dig into a little bit more of what you can do to configure the experience based on what you need for your particular case. So let's say that you only wanted recurring gifts to be set up with direct debit as a plausible scenario for why you would control the payment methods. So go ahead and launch the modal with fewer options. So for this case where we're like, hey, this is only, you only had one presented payment option, and we don't want to make you click something. We just forward you straight along to the payment method that it was set up for. So you can kind of streamline the experience that way. There are a number of reasons why you may choose to configure the payment methods, but if there is one that's eligible through the experience, we allow you to control those. more so for inline, but also for modal. We also support customization. So style customization. I think I should be able to just type in green. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So we allow just a little bit of customization just to kind of tie it into your website. The modal, because it is already kind of a separate experience, we do it simply as just like a little bit of a color touch. But I'll show a little bit more on the inline side, because that is one of the major new capabilities that we've provided, because BB Checkout previous version only had the modal experience, so you were always it was always kind of disconnected. But if we come back over here to the style customization, once I switched over to inline, we have a few different options here. So we do consider it to be you can either take just sort of like the coat of paint style, or you can go very deep in with some of the different selected like different buttons and inputs and things. So I'll leave this green color in here, but I'll show, like, if your form today is set up that it has very rectangular inputs and you wanted the form fields to match that, you can change the border radius. If so, this is what we would call kind of the floating style of label, but you can choose to make it a more traditional like above input label. So it's just all driving toward consistency. And if you wanted to match the font and it's available just as a general like internet accessible font, we can allow you to pull that through there. So let's see how those get applied here. So I know this isn't the prettiest form, but it just demonstrates that you can customize it to match your form more closely. Okay, so looking at some of the other configuration options, we have, I'll show one more thing, because we have the experience is pretty self-contained. We are also exposing our in-house fee cover options through this, just by a configuration option. So I'll go ahead and I'll show donor cover. So donor cover prompts the donor to add a little bit more to their payment to cover the processing fees. So the amount of the processing fees is actually, this little scroll bar shouldn't be here, but I'm running a slightly modified demo version of this. So that explains why the scroll bar is there. But let me refresh that. Okay, there we go. So once we know, given that there are different fees for between direct debit and credit card, once we know what your fee would be, we can prompt the donor with an estimate of how much it would take to cover the fees. And so they can opt in or opt out, and we'll authorize the correct amount. And so you get that basically just by turning on that fee offset type. And I'll examine this a little bit more closely than we had before. When the transaction comes out, we let you know kind of what they chose to do. And so you could see that we still have this $25 base amount, but we also have that $1.22 fee offset, and then the fact that they did choose to do that. So I think as far as configuration and customization, I think we covered things pretty well. I'll touch briefly here on just kind of what information is necessary in order to launch it. The primary thing, and this correlates well with the current checkout. The primary thing that you'll need is this payment configuration ID, which you can access. It's the same payment configuration that you've always used, and there is no longer a requirement on public key. Now, I have specified here a Blackbaud environment ID. This won't be necessary for the integration once it's all fully ready to be adopted. So from there, I will talk a little bit about what it takes to interact with this experience. So we're building out our docs for this, but we have step-by-step process for how you integrate it. For anybody familiar with the current integration, it's actually going to feel very similar. So the first thing that you'll do is the experience is driven by a JavaScript file. So you go ahead and include that. I mentioned environment ID. Long-term, that won't be necessary. Zone also won't be necessary, but you'll primarily be dealing with these payment configuration ID and the application name. Like I said, the payment configuration ID can be pulled from the payment configuration list in the payments API. So from there, you will, when you load that script into your site, it will expose this Blackbaud checkout constructor on the window object, and you build up your configuration. And this correlates back to a lot of the things that we had showed there before. And you will create an instance of the checkout service. Now, depending on which type of integration you're doing, whether it's modal or inline, you'll have some of the next steps will be different. Every workflow listens to this checkout complete. That's what you can see back here. That's the response there. And if you're doing the modal flow, once you're ready to get start into the payment flow, you just call this open payment form, and you pass in things like your base amount and whether or not it's recurring. If you're doing recurring direct debit, there's a little bit more there too. For modal, we have a few events. So you can subscribe if the modal was canceled, if somebody closed it out, so you can take action on that, or just record it just so you understand how your form is performing, things like that. For inline, there's a little bit more, and I'll touch on kind of what that looks like. So this is consistent. But from there, it gets a little bit more sophisticated just because it's a more sophisticated flow. So you will have two components that are exposed on this checkout service. So inline checkout component and the complete checkout button component. This just describes some events that you can listen to make your experience a little bit more, a little bit cleaner. And sorry if you can hear my kids screaming in the background. But these are things like if it's loading, if it's ready, that's going back over here for the inline flow. I'm able to know like, okay, the component is ready, now I'm going to show it, or the component is processing, so I'm going to throw a loading mask on top of here. That's basically what those are looking for. And from there, the way that you tell the checkout workflow how to work, like what amount you want to charge, because they live next to each other. There is a more of a dynamic syncing. So you would be able to do something like, looking here, this is actually, there's something that is missing in those docs, but on the checkout service, you would call, in a similar fashion to this, you would call checkout service amount, and you can push the amount and like recurrence description and things like that. So things that are necessary, kind of keeping an eye on the time, leave enough time for questions and to dig into specific things. But the last thing that I'll touch on here is that once you're ready for the experience to kind of get up and running, you call the mount command on the component and you place it into your form where you expect, like where you want it to be. So there is, I'll just show kind of like behind the scenes here what it's doing. So in this element that I called, I gave it the ID of inline checkout, which is consistent here. This is the element ID. This integration tells the script, put the inline checkout component in this place in my page. So it will go ahead and create the iframe. It'll connect to it. It'll pass it the configuration. It'll keep the state up to date, everything like that. So that's what, from the integration standpoint, you tell it where you want the actual like payment fields, and then you tell it here, I want you to mount the checkout button in this container, and I want you to use the form submit button that is here. So yeah, here's an example of what this actually looks like, just from an HTML standpoint. Oh yeah, and here's the example of how you actually go about like syncing. So this is very generic. Most people won't be using just like pure JavaScript, but you'll just tell like, hey, I changed the amount. Let me actually show kind of what that looks like. That's donor cover. So right now, this is calculating a $1.22. If I change my form field, it will automatically pass that in. It'll recalculate that value because we're syncing that amount, and then that gets recalculated. So I can answer a few of these questions too. I think that's probably good from the from kind of what we yeah, without going into every single event, every single detail. looking at some of the questions here, I can touch on those. So this code that I'm sharing here, this does represent what what you would need to do in order to integrate. So obviously, from the standpoint of the modal experience, when you're looking at this initialization, listen to the checkout complete, and then just open the modal, this one is very simple compared to what the inline version looks like. And it's sort of like with greater sophistication requires a little more code just to make sure that everything is talking to each other. But yes, this represents the code that you would need to write into your own application. Okay, so I don't know, Mina, if since we have it says 8.5 minutes left, wanting to dig into any more of these questions, or
Yeah, I can. I know that I was looking through. I think there was one I wanted to just quickly speak to from Kristen, who asked, "Do the recurring gift payments process automatically each month or frequency?" And I think this is a good question, because I think a lot of the questions are along the same vein, i.e., what's good to kind of delineate is that the payments API and this checkout experience here is really purely to process a payment through Blackbaud integrated payments, and it's somewhat agnostic to the calling application or the CRM application. So by processing a payment through this checkout, you will not see a gift automatically created, or the gift appear in a batch in RENXT, for example. The idea is that you would then, in conjunction with the payments API, use the APIs for RENXT or CRM or Luminate to create the gift record. And there was a question about split gifts as well. So in a similar vein, you would create the gift record and denote whether it was a split gift. You would add any information about the fund, campaign, appeal, etc. when you create the gift record in your application. The payments API will process the payment through Blackbaud Merchant Services, and it will show up automatically in your BBMS portal, but it won't show up automatically in your CRM without that additional step. And many of our integrations do both of those things, because obviously that's what you need, is that you need to be able to process that payment and then see that information in your CRM. So within the Sky API, you have the payments API for BBMS, and then you'll also see like the gift APIs, for example, for RENXT. So it's all kind of under the same developer platform. So hopefully that helps answer that question. But let us know if you have any other questions about that that structure or that concept. Mitchell.
Yeah. I can add a little bit to that too, just because there's one of our goals is to just make this fit seamlessly in with what is already there. So like we can modernize, refresh one piece and have the rest of the system work as normal for existing workflows, so that you can adopt the new checkout and have your other processes continue to be the same. So on the recurring gift question, the payments API, it has an endpoint that has existed for a long time, but what it has a parameter for a card token. And when you go through the transaction process, if you set up a transaction for recurring payments, you will get a token for the account that you can then use for subsequent payments. So that just kind of points back to like you need to set up the transaction to work with that, but then otherwise you can create the subsequent payments through the API. So a lot of this, what we've shown here today, is the online part of the process where the donor is in the flow and it like handling PCI regulations and things like that. And then from there, you're usually working with a tokenized payment method that was generated from that online starting point.
There was a question, Mitch, about the code that you've just gone through.
Yep.
And if we make that available, I think as part of the documentation as well, it will be something that we can make available.
Yeah. So we do have. I'll look at the. It fits on more of one screen. So we have a very simple like sample integration. These stocks are currently not available. Like we're still polishing up a couple of things to make them available, but as part of it, we do have this code sample, and it pretty much takes the little pieces of the step-by-step process and puts them all in one piece. So yeah, and there's also a sample application that's in GitHub, which I think it's been shared in a previous BB Dev Days, that does have a classic checkout integration, and we're going to be working on updating that to include a one of these integrations as well to kind of help with samples and references.
Bob had a good question about timing, so actually that might be a good segue into. I have a slide, Mitchell, that I'm going to pop up.
Go for it.
If you don't mind. I don't know if I can do that while you're still sharing. Oh, there we go. So I want to just share, so we are looking at making this available soon, Bob, and also Diana, to your question, we will share the project in GitHub as well. But what we're looking for right now is that we're looking at, our team is doing some work to make this available for any early adopters who are interested. So if your application accepts online anonymous payments, through the web, through websites or online, then this is a checkout experience that you would be able to use. Again, I want to reiterate, this is a checkout that has already been in production for years, raised millions of dollars for many of our customers already. So we're not necessarily testing out its payment processing capabilities, but what we are looking for feedback on is the integration experience, the code that Mitchell's just gone through. Does it support the kind of styling options you need? Do you want to, does it have everything that you need in order to be able to successfully integrate it into your applications? So if you're interested in that, drop your information in the chat and we'll definitely follow up in the coming weeks to help you, get started, share some information, share some documentation, and work closely with you on testing it out. So if you are also just not sure and you just want some more information, then also just let us know and we'd be happy to answer any more questions that you have. I'll also point out the Sky API community here. So for any other general questions on the Payments API, we do have an active community that comes through to our team, but also to other people who've already done integrations. So that's also a great place to get some answers as well. Okay, we have 35 seconds. I'm going to make a quick plug. I know we're at the end of BB Dev Days, but we have had other sessions that touch on the Payments API. And so when you get access to the recordings, we had a great session on Tuesday, which showed you a series of partners who have already integrated, can show you kind of the breadth of the different use cases that we can support and that are available to you today as a customer. And then on Wednesday, one of those partners, GiveBee, who's built a text-to-give experience, went deeper into their integration. And then earlier today, On Thursday, we actually had Ruby Tree Software, I believe, go through their integration. They've integrated the current checkout into their events platform. So some additional sessions for you to check out if you want to also learn more about what the capabilities are. Okay, I don't know if I'm still live, but if I am, thank you all for joining. and we will hopefully speak to a lot of you soon. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.